Hey everyone, welcome back. I'm your host Stan Miles, and I'm coming to you lively pre-recorded from the drywall enclosed studios of DravinsDen. And before we roll into the show, I just want to say thanks for spending part of your Monday with me. Whether you're listening at work or on the road or hiding from your family in the bathroom for 5 minutes apiece, you're in the right place. A couple of things off the bat. I received the show's first family history email submission, and you'll be hearing that this week. Remember that you can send yours too, and I'll talk about it on the air, give you credit if you want. If not, that's fine too, just let me know. Also, I am super stoked to announce that the beta version of the Lore Trail app is now live and testing, and so far it's been awesome. I still need your support though over on Kickstarter to, fancy it all up before I deliver it to the world. So head over to Kickstarter and search for the Lore Trail app. Donate if you can, or just spread the word. Support in any form is appreciated to help bring our history into interactive real time. Okay, without further ado, I bring you the DravinsDen Weekend History Roundup. Let's kick the tires and light them fires. Because this weekend in history was a heavy one, and a strange one, and somehow funny one too.
The Civil War is the central event in America's historical consciousness. While the Revolution of 1776 to 1783 created the United States, the war between the states determined what kind of nation it would be. On June 1st, 1862, General Robert E. Lee was given command of the Army of Northern Virginia. Lee's army staved off invasions and attacks by the Union Army of the Potomac during battles such as Gaines Mill, Bull Run, Fredericksburg, and Chancellorsville, until General Grant came to Virginia from the Western Theater to become General-in-Chief of all Union armies in 1864. Grant finally brought Lee to bay at Appomattox in 1865.
On December 13th, 1862, 163 years ago, the Battle of Fredericksburg unfolded in Virginia. It remains one of the most sobering lessons in American military history, not because of what happened unexpectedly, but because of what happened exactly as many feared it would. Union General Ambrose Burnside was in command of the Army of the Potomac. Burnside was not a reckless man by nature, but he was under enormous pressure, political pressure, military pressure, and the crushing weight of expectation. He believed speed and determination could overcome Confederate defenses. What he failed to fully account for was geography, preparation, and reality. The Confederate Army occupied Marye's Heights, positioned behind a stone wall that stretched along the base of the hill. It was an almost perfect defensive position. Open ground in front, elevated ground behind, clear lines of fire. The Union soldiers who advanced toward it had no cover, none. They were visible the entire way. And yet Burnside ordered repeated frontal assaults. Wave after wave of Union soldiers crossed that open ground, fully visible, fully exposed, and still ordered forward. Rifle fire, artillery, bodies falling where they stood, and still the orders came, again and again and again. By the time the end of the day came along, more than 12,600 Union soldiers were killed, wounded, or missing. Confederate casualties were around 5,300. It was one of the most lopsided losses of the entire Civil War. What makes Fredericksburg especially haunting isn't just the loss. It's the inevitability. The soldiers knew. The officers knew. And yet history marched on anyway. If you've ever walked down Old Sunken Road next to the mostly original wall, or climbed to the top of Marye's Heights to the cemetery overlooking the city, and you can shut out the noise, you know the silence there feels earned. The distance between the Union lines and the stone wall doesn't look that far, until you imagine crossing it with nothing but hope and orders to protect you. December 14. That morning, the fighting had largely stopped. Snow began to fall, settling over the wounded who couldn't move and the dead who would never move again. The Rappahannock River flowed quietly, unchanged, indifferent. And then something remarkable happened. Soldiers from both sides began helping the wounded, sometimes their own, sometimes the enemy's. Civilians in Fredericksburg opened their homes and cellars, sheltering anyone they could. Regardless of the uniform, they would take them in. Clara Barton was there, moving among the injured, treating wounds and offering comfort. This was years before the Red Cross, but the work that would define her life was already taking shape. Even in the worst moments of war, humanity still found cracks to shine through. And then, mostly abruptly, history reminds us that life never pauses for tragedy. While soldiers were freezing outside Fredericksburg, people back home were already arguing about Christmas. Imagine that. Victorian newspapers complained endlessly that Christmas had become too commercial. Too many gifts, too much pressure, too many expectations. Writers grumbled about families going into debt just to impress relatives they barely tolerated. So yes, people were already mad about Christmas shopping in the 1800s. Some traditions truly are timeless. So funny and strange, soldiers' diaries from December campaigns are filled with complaints that feel shockingly modern. Cold feet, terrible food, missing coffee more than almost anything else. Officers making decisions from warm tents while everyone else froze. One Union soldier wrote that the rations were so bad he wasn't sure whether to eat them or apologize to them. Winter has always been an enemy. The December gift giving has always been a gamble. There are historical records of people receiving live animals as Christmas presents. Imagine waking up expecting socks and instead being handed a goat. Others received deeply questionable handmade items. Clearly heartfelt. Clearly time-consuming. And absolutely useless. And of course, there was practical gifts. Tools. Chores disguised as generosity. And items that basically said, I love you, but you need to be more productive. Somewhere in history, someone smiled politely at a terrible gift and said, oh, this is wonderful. Humanity has been doing that ever since. Now we get to today, December 15th, but in 1862. The Union Army withdrew across the Rappahannock. The Fredericksburg campaign was over. Burnside's reputation never recovered. Confidence and leadership cracked. And for many soldiers, the war stopped being about glory and became about survival. December 15th also marked something quieter, but just as lasting. In 1791, the Bill of Rights was ratified. 10 amendments, added without celebration, that would go on to define American life. No parades, no applause, just words on paper that reshaped a nation. Before we wrap up, let me tell you about something that fits perfectly with everything we talk about here. If you love discovering the stories beneath your feet, not just the famous moments, but the forgotten ones, that's exactly what we're building with the Lore Trail app. Lore Trail is a GPS-based history app that shows you what happened right where you're standing. No searching, no digging. You open the app, and history comes to you. You can learn more at loretrail.com, or as I mentioned earlier, head over to Kickstarter. And like I said, donate what you can, or just spread the word. I appreciate you either way. And if you need a little energy to survive the holidays, so we're all going to need that, check out W Energy. It's clean energy without the crash. Head to w.gg, and if you use the promo code DravinsDen, you'll get 10% off your order. Before I go, I want to hear from you. As I said, this week you'll be hearing our first email, but history doesn't just live in books. It lives in families. If your family has a story, a war story, strange tradition, a local legend, or something that's been passed down. Send it to DravinsDen@gmail.com. Your story might make it onto a future episode. You can listen to Dravin's Den on YouTube, Spotify, Spreaker, and TikTok. That's right, I figured out a way to put me on TikTok. Yay! Knowing where we came from gives us a good roadmap to our future. I'm Stan. Thanks for spending part of your Monday with me.